Hi, we are bringing in
Have a
our
great
managing broker, Dean Becker. Dean, welcome. It is so great
Yeah,
to
I
actually
know. He's in
see
the
you
house.
in person.
I know. Thank you.
All right. All right.
Just that plain and
All right,
simple.
that's it. So everybody
Okay,
go out and
I'm
sell a
done.
home.
Have a good day, Dean.
All right. So Dean wanted to, he sent me an email last week and we were talking and want to talk about just manufactured homes and eight key questions. And I want to start off the conversation because we're seeing a lot more people doing contracts, whether representing buyers and sellers. On my team, I'm seeing a lot of more representing buyers for manufactured homes. I want to start off with, because I want to get basic here, because I had to have this conversation with one of my team members last week when she called. What contract do we use?
Okay, so it depends. It's just that plain and simple. It depends. It depends on if that manufactured home is attached to the land or not. If it's not attached to the land and it is in a mobile home park, you would use the manufactured home purchase contract from AAR online.
Yeah, and that's where people get confused because I'm a member of the board up in the White Mountains, right? And they
Yes.
have their own manufactured home contract.
Yes.
And it pops up, but I'm like, okay, that's not the one that I use. So people need to understand that you go to aaronline.com. You all should have a username and password. If you don't have an account there, then you've never met
Sign
with
up for it.
Garrett,
Right.
and so forth. So I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah. So sign into your AAR online account and then pull up the manufactured home, actually the 2017 manufactured homes purchase contract and the due diligence addenda. So you're going to need both those realistically anytime you go to a manufactured home that does not convey with the land.
All right, so let's jump into it. What are some of the statutory requirements of the ADOH licensing exemption? You'll probably need to explain what ADOH stands for.
Okay, the Arizona Department of Housing licensing exemption. So just a short brief history. In 2017, Governor Doug Ducey signed a House bill to give us the ability to sell manufactured homes. Before that, we couldn't do that because they weren't attached to the land. So this new statute gave us the ability to do that. So when we got that ability, it came with certain criteria. You had to do used homes that were installed on the property, and you had to list it for representation just the same as you would for any other type of property that you were selling.
So then, what you're saying is, if let's say I can't just use my license and go and work for a dealer per se,
No,
because these are brand new and never been used.
Sure. So the brand new ones from a dealer to whether it's put into a park or sold to go on private land or whatnot, those come with dealer licenses. So the Arizona Department of Housing has two specific. They have the dealer license, and then you can go and sell used. So two separate licenses, two separate criteria.
All righty. When is a manufactured or mobile home used?
So it's used once it's moved. So if the dealer puts it onto a lot in a park, now it's considered used. It has had a transaction already. So whether it's placed in the park or placed on land, then it's used. And then we have the ability to resell that property.
All right, so so it doesn't necessarily mean somebody's actually had to live in it
Nope.
or occupy it whatsoever.
Not a requirement, just as long as there's been another prior real estate transaction from the dealer to the land or the.
It's just like buying a brand new car.
Just like driving.
Once you drive
it off the lot, you're done.
I had to do that. Go to a dealership, they're selling me a brand new car, do a test drive, come back and go, well, now it's used.
Yes. Yeah.
I want.
I think they crossed the mile threshold once they get to 300 miles, isn't it used? So
I don't know.
Take your house out for a spin and then it's used. No.
All right. When is a manufactured or mobile home considered installed on the property?
Okay. So many people get installed and an affidavit of a fixture confused. So an affidavit of fixture is the legal, it's affixed to the ground. But installed means just simply hooking up to the utilities, placed on some sort of foundation system, or even anchored to the ground, which then would facilitate an affidavit of a fixture. It's been affixed.
How would you define the difference between a mobile home and an RV?
Size.
Size, okay.
So realistically, size. So mobile homes, by definition, are pre-June 15th, 1976. So that's a mobile home. A manufactured home is post-June 15th, 1976. Same product, realistically, just depends on what date that it was manufactured. To get into the RV side of things, then obviously is just the size. Smaller than 320 square feet, realistically, makes it an RV.
Help us understand exactly what an affidavit of a fixture is and where would we find that and who provides that?
So the shortcut is go to Monsoon. Monsoon will tell you if it has been legally affixed to the property or not. And then it's recorded with the Maricopa County court, or Maricopa County records. County records.
You look like you had something to say.
No, he said court, and I was going to say county record. That's all. Yeah.
All right, we'll let you two boys fight it out later on.
No, we're good. We're sharing the same mind right now.
Exactly.
All right. Continuing our conversation with managing broker Dean Becker on manufactured homes. When is a manufactured or mobile home listed in a contract for transfer of an interest in real property executed by its owner? So, what does that even mean?
So the layman's term of this is it lists like any other property that you're trying to sell. You would use the same basic documents. You would have an agency. You'd have an exclusive right to sell or list the property. You'd have a SPUDS. You'd have lead-based paint if that applied, and an HOA addendum if that applied. Realistically, it lists almost the exact same way as you would real property, even if it's in a park or attached.
Any nuances to it that we should know? Let's say we get a call from a seller and now I'm showing up. I've never listed a manufactured mobile home. What are some key questions I should be asking? What are some key items I should be after? And any nuances to listing that's different?
So the nuances are obviously used. That's kind of the first one, just to make sure that the property's bigger than 400 square feet. And it doesn't necessarily need to be attached or unattached, because it just kind of directs you to which direction you're going to go with the purchase side of the transaction. So larger than 400 square feet and used.
So if they're under 4, they're typically called what's called a tiny home. And those are usually mobile.
Yes. So you can get in the tiny home, which is mounted onto a trailer itself. Yep. Or you'd get into the park model feature. So you got park models, which are $399 and smaller, but that's also considered a trailer.
All right. What is the significance of recording an affidavit of a fixture? And going back to the affidavit of a fixture, is it a document that we were printing and have it signed? Is it something produced by the title company, or is it just the document that's in Monsoon or on tax records?
It is the document in the tax records, but what makes the affidavit of a fixture is then it will be taxed as real property. You're going from a trailer and having the $200 or $300 a year trailer tax to actually being assessed as real property and whatever that tax basis is on that.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that, Todd?
No, actually, so far, Dean has a class that I'm sure at some particular point he's going to share with you on this particular topic. And I'm hoping that a lot of people who deal with residential resale stick-built homes are not signing off and saying, oh, I don't need to listen to this, because this is moving in a whole new direction. It's not only just mobile home, it's also manufactured. It's also what do they call it? Modular homes. And there's a lot of little things that are all taking place right now. And especially as homes get more and more expensive, weeding the workforce housing and the entry-level buyer potentially out of the market, these are going to become much more apparent, and you're going to be seeing
that's why we're talking about it.
That is exactly the reason why we're talking about it.
Yeah. I think it's from the old days when people thought you had a manufactured home and that you had this thing that got blown down the road when the wind picked up. It was this structure that wasn't up to people's expectations. And now today they're 2x6 construction. There's, they're mounted on a solid base. They're just about everything that a normal house is, except for now they're affordable. Where to go out and put a stick-built home on a lot is an incredible amount of money, to where you can get a pre-designed, pre-built home delivered and mounted onto the property for a much less cost. As a buyer or investor, it's a bonus for you, because you can get into ownership a whole lot at a lower threshold.
All right. So mobile home parks, how are they defined?
Okay.
What is a mobile park home?
Anything that has 4 or more lots that are going to be rentable to these manufactured homes. So the parks are pretty easy to define what they are, because you can see what they are. And realistically, if you pull up and you see more than 4 or 5 of these and the big billboard sign up front, but by name, they're not necessarily anything different. They look like Sunny Acres or whatever the flashy name is to get to attract clientele. But as long as they have 4 or more spaces that are going to be rentable for these properties, that's realistically all the department looks for.
What kind of guidelines is there as far as if it has 4 or more mobile home spaces? Do they have to have an HOA?
No.
Like, is it?
No. It's just whatever the park rules in the park, what sets
The owner.
Yeah, whatever sets that park different from the rest, and what their expectations are.
But if he, let's say he decides to convert them to sell them, and he's got 10 or 15 of these mobile homes on the lot.
So ultimately, right now, that's kind of our competition, is the mobile home park themselves, because naturally they like to keep these transactions in-house, and getting word out to sellers to let them know that we can represent them and help them maximize their dollar and the time that they have on market to attract buyers, I think is paramount to moving into this type of transaction for a lot of agents.
And I think a lot of us are remembering, especially if we've had our license for 20 years, we're remembering mobile home parks as when you drive out to Apache Junction or something and you see the old-fashioned retirement communities where there was one right next to another, right next to another. It almost looked like a dealership lot. Didn't have a lot of land associated with it. Well, the new parks, you would drive into a new park and you'd think it was a regular resale community. I mean, they're really that difficult sometimes to identify, whether or not, what type of community it really is until you get into it.
They have the same amenities as most of the HOAs.
Yep.
They have golf courses, they have clubhouses, they have all the different things to attract a lifestyle. Not only just let's put as many of these little houses as we possibly could on a square, parcel.
Well, I kind of jumped the gun, I guess, because I didn't read your slides ahead of time. So,
That's right.
So I was talking about, because it's not as simple as, hey, I'm going to represent a buyer. I'm going to put in an offer on a mobile home or manufactured home, and I'm going to use the regular AAR, residential purchase agreement. There are sometimes, in most cases, in my opinion, very specific forms. And one of the forms, the purchase contract for manufactured homes, is not found in transaction desk.
Okay, I'll back up just 1 second. Again, if this manufactured home is mounted to the land, affixed to the land, and it conveys with it, you still do use the resale purchase contract. But if it isn't affixed and it's in a park, you use the manufactured home purchase contract. And there are a few small, minute differences from that contract to the resale contract that kind of trip up some agents. Just because of the way it's laid out, it asks you questions in different order as what you're used to on the resale contract.
Like VIN number. We don't see that on the on a regular number, residential purchase contract.
Model, things like that. But it also asks for square footage, where the contract doesn't ask for that. It doesn't have the criteria of proof of funds. It has proof of funds, but no lender requirement built into it. It asks, just in different order of which is lead-based paint or not. That's the backwards order that's kind of switched on this contract that people all the time get used to checking the top box for lead-based paint on the resale contract. Well, it's flipped on the manufactured homes contract. Just little minute details that paying attention to the contract itself as you read through, that will set you apart.
And if you look at it, it was actually created by an organization called the Manufactured Housing Communities of Arizona. So it says MHCA at the top, and it's copywritten to MHCA. So you'll find it on the AAR website. However, it doesn't look like a normal contract. So don't be confused if you
Right.
should ever get one.
Yeah.
So you woke up one day, Dean, and said, I'm going to make manufactured
did.
homes and mobile homes my thing.
Yes. No, actually, it just came out of necessity, much like a lot of things that happen here in the broker's office. It started getting a call and then another call and 10 calls. And it was like, oh, somebody didn't know about these things. So I kind of volunteered myself as being the manufactured home specialist, I guess.
Boy, I couldn't imagine your pillow
what a
talk at
great
night.
deal.
Your wife's a lucky gal.
Yes.
All right, last question. What type of manufactured or mobile home can be sold?
Okay, so single or double wide, you'll be able to tell that as far as what the VIN number is as it goes. Again, no RV park models, things that are within a park, because those are too small and that's not what our license was granted for. You can use the park model if it is affixed or attached to the real estate, but not if it is just within a manufactured home park.
All right, I want to get into the financing aspect a little bit of this. And one of the biggest questions that I always ask is whether it's affixed to the land or not. Is the land owned or is the land leased? And how important is knowing whether it sits on leased land? And then what do you know about? Because I know not every lender, you just can't call every single lender and say, hey, I've got a buyer, we're doing a manufactured home. A lot of them can't do it and they outsource it. And I don't know whether you're familiar with some of the nuances and understanding the financing aspect of it.
So there are a few, quite a few, because the numbers are growing more and more, of brokers or lenders who will do manufactured homes that are not attached to the land. Traditionally, most lenders will do the manufactured homes that are attached, but now the list is growing more and more for the ones that deal with homes that are in parks. Much the same as like title companies. Some title companies do not do the escrow of these properties because that's not their specialty, because it's not necessarily a title that is doing a title background search and things like that, because it is a trailer in a park. So check with your lender to see if they do them, check with your title company to make sure they do them, or call your broker's office and we'll give you a list of lenders and title companies that we've kind of gone over in the past or vetted that know that handle these type of transactions.
So Todd, what type of, because we're seeing more and more of these, it definitely over the last decade or so hasn't been anything that most agents have paid attention to. How much of an opportunity is there for someone to come along and really dig deep into this and become specialists and
Make it a niche market.
make it a niche market?
It's incredible. We've had a few agents who have been working in this particular space. When they first brought it to us, it was relatively new to us, and it was awkward, and maybe we didn't reply with the same understanding as we would have had we had today's knowledge. So it was difficult, and it was difficult for them to do what they needed to do as well. But right now, the market's actually shifting. In fact, if you do a lot of reading right now, if you're interested in building a cabin up north, or you're interested in doing something, there are some property. I mean, when you look at the properties and they allow for these, whether they're manufactured homes or whether they're modular homes, these modular homes are indicated to be built with better energy efficiencies and structural components than a regular stick-built home is. And so if somebody's looking for certain properties and they now see what those offer and they know they can get into one of those for $225 a square foot instead of $400 a square foot like it is in today's market for stick-builts, you got to take that into consideration. And as the market starts to get away from people, whether interest rates remain at 7%, there are other options. And as a realtor, if you don't know these other options, you're not serving your client to the maximum capacity that you should be. Maybe we're letting people go because we're trying to force them into a $400,000 entry level home when they really belong in a beautiful home. Let's call it a modular home in a particular community that they would not really know any difference looking at the properties around them, except for there's no Taj Mahals. But it's something that we really need to get to. Now, these build to rent properties you're seeing pop up, these communities, that's the alternative to what we're talking about here. So you're either going to end up in a build to rent community, or you can end up in a modular manufactured community that you own. And that's really, if we are people talking about ownership, I mean, if we're all about home ownership and about establishing yourself and having equity and moving yourself forward, those rent-to-owns are the worst thing for anybody. Well, they're not any worse than any other rentals, but the fact is that help people own a home. Stop with I got to put them into all I know, which is a stick-built, $500,000, $400,000 home. Learn about this particular market segment and then become a specialist in it. And, I'm telling you, there's a lot more people under $500,000 that are interested in buying homes than over $500,000. So why not go to the area where all the buyers are? Why not become a specialist in an area that can attract the majority of buyers that currently today no realtor without this level of specialty is identifying?
Well, I think another part is the construction delays. You get into these things and you get people, if you've registered your client for a builder home in the last 3, 4, 5 years, it may take 18 months, 19 months, 24 months for them to get that home, stick-built home built for you. Delays, costs, all these other sort of things. This, you go down and you order your home, and within 6 weeks, they're delivering your home to wherever you've purchased the land. You have everything already ready for it. The ownership is sped up because you're not having these extra delays in there.
Okay. So in kind of wrapping up, what are we not asking? Or if I'm listening to what Todd has to say and say, okay, I want to go down this road, look at becoming a specialist in it. Where do I go to? Where should I be doing my homework? Where should I be learning from? What are some of those resources out there?
Okay, so I think obviously with clients, it starts at price point. You're going to get into a price point that is much more attractive to buyers at this point. And then from there on, it's, hey, how do I do these things? Because it tends to be a lot of these transactions for the manufactured homes fall within that specialty. So I, along with Todd's help, we wrote a manufactured homes purchase contract, CE class, to walk our agents through the ins and outs of writing this contract to maximize their clients' best interests.
When's your next one?
The next one that I have scheduled is on September the 12th in the Mesa office. So from 9 to 12 in the Mesa office on September the 12th will be the next one. So the first one that I scheduled was in Chandler 2 weeks ago, and I had 26 people sign up for it. So, which is live in-person classes. No discrediting Todd and his Zoom calls, but that's for him. That isn't for me. I'm a live in-person kind of instructor. I move around too much on the things and dance around the room, I think, a little bit.
So, high energy.
Well, whether it's virtual or in person, Todd, the Red Solo Cup still works.
Still works. Absolutely. Yeah, I would say go into MLS and start doing some searches. Put in the keywords modular, put in the keywords manufactured, see what pops up, look at the prices, look at the different types of communities those properties are located in, so that you can start your reticular activator working on your behalf if you think this is it. And a reticular activator just makes you see things out of the corner of your eye that otherwise you might not have seen had you not introduced it to your mind. And so consequently, by doing so, you're going to all of a sudden hear more conversations about this type of thing. And although you're not going to probably jump in right away and go, oh yeah, I can do that, you're going to listen and you're going to see how somebody else jumps in and how somebody else starts doing that. And then you'll build your competence from that particular perspective.
All right, Dean, I'm going to have you up here at the North Phoenix office, but we're going to breakfast after this. So we're going to put it on the calendar, do a little CE class, and I'll fill that room out there for you. What do you think?
You can't turn down bacon.
That's exactly his response. Hashtag you can't turn down bacon.
I love it.
All right, Dean, appreciate it as always. Leave everybody with the quote of the day from good old Ben. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. Involve me and I learn. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Go out and sell a home.